Hello friends, I'm so excited to be back making videos today because today I get to take a look at the new CUPHEAD figure from Funko! Yay! So this CUPHEAD figure is pretty much exactly what you'd expect. In terms of the sculpt, there's not a lot to complain about. I mean, things that should be sculpted are sculpted, like his eyes. I like that the eyes are sculpted and they're bugging out. The little marks on the gloves of his hands, they're not sculpted, they're just painted on, but it doesn't really bother me. And I like that the ripples in the milk, or whatever's in his head, I think it's milk, I don't know. But I like that they're sculpted. Pretty much everything that should be sculpted is sculpted. I mean, it's a very simple design, so there's not a lot to mess up. The bumpies on the black parts of his eyes are sculpted, like it's a raised detail. I mean, the only thing you might take issue with is, in a lot of merchandise, CUPHEAD's handle is like off to the side, but that's just so that you can see the handle in his face at the same time. In the game, when he's running to the right, like obviously the handle is in the back and so is the straw, so they pretty much got it right. The straw's not like exactly in the back. It's kind of, you can see, it's kind of off to one side, but it's mostly in the back, and like, I like that. I like that it's a little askew. The sculpt is pretty perfect. There's nothing to really complain about. The paint, pretty much the same thing. What's there is clean. The white on the eyes is clean. The black on the eyes is clean enough. It's a little inside the sculpted line, you can see, but that's better than it being sloppy and being outside. The nose, it's a little off. You can see the red right here went a little out, but the black and red on the mouth is perfect. And the little black marks on the gloves are perfect. Everything else is just molded, except for the red stripes on the straw. And that's probably where you get the most slop, like it went over the line here and under the line there. But, I mean, it's not that noticeable. The paint's pretty awesome, honestly. Now let's look at articulation. So, CUPHEAD has a cup for a head, obviously, but it's also a ball joint, surprisingly. I would have settled for a cut joint, but he can look up and down just a little bit and go all the way around. Awesome. He has hinge and swivel shoulders. They can't go up that high because his head's in the way, but what did you expect? And he has hinged elbows. Now, unfortunately, they're like kind of falling apart. If you can see, if the big head gets out of the way, like there's a huge gap in there. Yeah, there you can see the gap. But, I mean, so far they haven't fallen off, so fingers crossed that they don't. He has swivel wrists, and he does have a swivel waist down here. It's very sticky when you first get him out of the packaging, but it is there. He has swivels at the hips, but they're pretty much useless because he swivels at the foot. So there's no real need for swivels at the hips. There's not any articulation he's missing. I mean, he kind of has some superfluous articulation, honestly. If there's anything he's missing, it's probably like the straw. So like you could turn the straw to poke that way if you want, or left if you want, or his right, his left, whatever. That would have been cool, but it's not really needed. It's a pretty awesome figure, frankly. And here's what CUPHEAD looked like in the packaging. It's got a very retro feel to it. I like it all around. The brown in the back, it looks black and white, and it also looks faded. If you look real close on the card art, you can see it's got this old newsprint type effect going on. Even down there on the bottom, it's, if we can focus on it, there's like all these little dots, like a retro comic book. It's pretty cool looking packaging. On the back, you can see the other figures, and I guess it's got a little bit of advice. Don't deal with the devil. It's pretty good advice. And there's the devil himself, and Mugman, and King Dice, who are all from the game, but I wouldn't know, because I haven't really played the game yet. But anyways, let's open her up. Wow, Funko glued the plastic to the back of the card, so it doesn't really just tear off. It leaves a good chunk of the card behind when you tear it. But inside, CUPHEAD's in a tray, and it's cool. It's a very unique tray. It's like the ones from Japanese import figures. It's got one on the front and one in the back to sort of protect the figure inside, which, I mean, it's a $10 figure, so I didn't really expect that. But thankfully, no twist ties. Awesome packaging, Funko. Alright, CUPHEAD doesn't get any accessories, so we're going to skip straight to the scale. CUPHEAD stands at about 3.5 inches tall if you go to the top of his cup, and about 4.25 if you go to the top of his straw in the back there. I think he's really like 3.5 inches tall, because that's the top of his head, you know. Here he is with a Crash Bandicoot figure from NECA I'll be reviewing soon. A Toon Link from Jakks Pacific that I just think he looks really good with. A couple Marios, one from Jakks, one from SH Figuarts. A couple Sonics, one classic, one modern. As always, a DC UC Batman and Marvel Legends Spider-Man. And then I thought he'd just look cool with this Epic Mickey figure I got from the Epic Mickey games, but he doesn't. Mickey's kind of too big and gangly. Let's get him out of here. So Cuphead's a pretty cool figure. You can't really get him into that many poses because his design kind of limits the articulation, but I like that they sculpted his hands so he can, shoot just like he does in the game. That makes perfect sense, and everything about the paint and the sculpt and the articulation makes pretty much perfect sense. I mean, if you're a fan of the game, I'd definitely get this guy if you like action figures, but I would just be warned, friends, that you can't really pose him too much, and I would also be warned to watch out for that elbow, but I mean, the peg hasn't popped out yet, but I mean, if it does, you can just pop the peg back in, so it's not the end of the world, and it's not an amazing figure or anything, but it's definitely good enough for a really cool character, so I like it. Go out and get it. Until next time, peace out, YouTube!